Boys, the face of boxing has been taken out by none other than Terrence Bud Crawford. If you guys do enjoy the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Peace. Alright, so last night was the biggest boxing fight event. I say event, but it's just a fight. The biggest boxing fight of the modern day history. I mean, you talk about like George Foreman versus, or Joe Frazier versus Muhammad Ali. Manny Pacquiao versus Mayweather. Pretty much Mayweather dominated for the last like 20 years in terms of like boxing events. But now, this day and age, it's all about Canelo, the biggest face in boxing, the most notable name. And Terrence Bud Crawford went in there and just schooled him. I mean, for me, I thought it was going to come and kind of boil down to two things. Is Canelo kind of play big, like try to use his size? Because in reality, Canelo is a bigger dude. He rehydrated much more. I think day of the fight he was 185. They obviously weighed in at 167.5 each. But Canelo rehydrated almost 20 pounds. Crawford more like 10 pounds. So Canelo had some weight on him. But Crawford had the reach advantage. He was an inch taller. He was quicker. He was faster. I mean, you could tell the difference right in the beginning of the fight. I thought that Canelo gave Crawford too much respect in the beginning. I think that Canelo allowed the crowd to kind of, or he allowed Crawford to kind of take the crowd away from things. I think that if he would have let the crowd kind of swallow up Crawford and make it look like, kind of put him under the pressure of the spotlight, make it seem like the lights are too bright for him, I thought Canelo could have done a little bit more in that sense. But realistically, man, Crawford outboxed him. He had a good jab. He waited for Canelo to kind of throw that right hand. And Canelo's kind of whole offensive plan didn't change much from every other Canelo fight. If you're a big boxing fan, you know that Canelo always fights that way. And it's not a good look when you kind of give, he obviously has 60 some odd fights. And Crawford has a big, film room to study off of, right? There's a lot of film on him. And Canelo fought just like Canelo would fight in the last 5 years. I mean, throwing right hands. If Crawford would move right, he'd throw a right hook to the body. Crawford knew that was coming. Canelo did some good, he disguised it pretty well in the second, third, fourth round. But realistically, the first 4 rounds went to Crawford pretty handedly, and I think that he kind of sucked the crowd out of it. Everybody was kind of getting nervous, myself included. And in reality, this kind of came to as a shock to a lot of people. But in reality, it really wasn't. Crawford was always a good fighter. He's a pure boxer. So if you know ball, you know that Crawford's good. You know that he's elite. He's up there, right? But it's true that his resume doesn't have a lot of elite fighters because there's not a lot of elite fighters within his weight class. So Errol Spence was obviously his biggest fight, but that came off of Errol Spence's bad car accident he had. And so Errol Spence never looked the same. So yeah, that division was kind of weak. So he obviously, like I said, he was the king in that division. Not a lot of great fighters. Well, top-notch fighters. Canelo was obviously the biggest fighter. He was in that weight division. He moved up to 168. He tried 174. So the real question for me, obviously, like I said, Canelo didn't really fight very well. He didn't change the game plan. I wanted him to come in as Canelo, the guy that slips jabs, the guy that counter punches. But Crawford did that better than him. I think you saw that in the 5th round. Canelo switched it up a little bit. He kind of went more towards the slip punches. But Canelo never threw a jab. It looked like he was only throwing power punches. He never developed that jab. He allowed Crawford to see everything. So it's kind of everything was put in front of him. Crawford just had to see what Canelo was doing, and then bob and weave, and then counter punch. And it was like Canelo threw a hook, a right hook. He threw a left straight. Crawford moved out of the way of those, and then he would just throw 5 punches, a flurry, and then Canelo would just turtle up, and nothing would come from that. So Canelo didn't throw jabs. He didn't slip any jabs. It was just a bad day all around. So it kind of begs the question, what does Canelo do now, right? After this fight, after this loss? You could tell he kind of took that one kind of took that one to heart. He was pretty emotional after the fight. It was kind of clear to see that that loss kind of hurt him. But I think it hurt him more because, like I said, I don't know what's next for Canelo. What does he do, right? Like, he's not going to go. Crawford obviously has all the belts, so he can't just go and be like, okay, I'm going to pick this champion. I'm going to bully this champion. I'm going to bully this champion because Crawford has all the belts. And he already tried once to move up, and it didn't really work out. A lot of people are calling for that Benavidez fight, but it just doesn't make sense at all for Canelo. I think Canelo does win that fight because, let's face it, Benavidez is he's not a boxer like Crawford is. He's a puncher. All he does is bully people, and if you're gonna fight that way against Canelo, you're gonna lose because you need to box Canelo. Canelo, every boxer he's ever fought, he lost. Bivol, Mayweather, Crawford. The first fight against Gennady Golovkin, you could tell he lost that fight. Most of us in our hearts know he lost that fight. Gennady Golovkin obviously wasn't a boxer. He was more of like a Canelo type where he throws a lot of power punches. And yeah, it was disappointing to watch Canelo not throw a jab. I was screaming at my TV saying, dude, throw a jab. That's the most important punch in the game. That's like the first punch they teach you. Everything is set up off a jab. He didn't throw any of those. Crawford power punched or countered really well. He pretty much dismantled Canelo. There was no backup plan for Canelo. He looked a little bit lost out there, and I mean, he got dog walked, right? But Crawford, very gracious in victory, and he gave Canelo his belts back. I mean, kind of a consolation prize. I'm not sure how that works. Obviously, does he mail them to him? Does, I don't know, Amazon Prime or something? I don't know. But give him his belts back, sign of respect. And this was kind of the viral clip that everyone is looking at. Obviously, like I said, Crawford, all he had to do was counter Canelo's power punches. Canelo, obviously, he has good head movement, but he allowed Crawford to pick his spots, pinpoint where he was going to be at. And like I said, not very defensive from Canelo. I would have loved to see more of a Canelo defensive type boxing beat. And he kind of went through a stint where he did a fight like that. But he got super comfortable fighting dudes that let him punch him. And yeah, I thought that Crawford kind of pitched a perfect game there. And no surprise. But like I said, I don't know what's next for Canelo. The rematch is pretty much the only plausible cause for him to fight again. There's nothing else for him. I've been calling for a Canelo retirement for a very long time. I don't think he owes anything more to the game of boxing. I obviously, he was the face of boxing, so that kind of convinced him, entitled him to kind of continue to fight because he was the face of boxing. It's hard to just go in and just kind of give it all up when you're the face of boxing, right? If I'm the best at something and everybody's telling me I'm the best, why would I retire? He doesn't want to retire at the top of the game, much like Floyd Mayweather did. But Canelo says Crawford was better than Mayweather. I don't believe so. Different time, different fight. Obviously, Crawford being 37 years old, he's still kind of wow, he's old, but he still has a lot left in the tank. What's next for Canelo? What's next for Crawford? I know that Canelo still has 2 more fights in his contract with His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh. Don't know what happens after that, but for me, man, I just think that if Canelo doesn't rematch him, he should just retire. At this point, 3 losses on your record, 2 draws, I believe, a draw. Not 100% sure, I forget. 60 some odd wins, 63, 64 wins. Face of boxing for so long, you're the big pay pig, you're the prize pool. Pretty much, I think he's done so much. He's accomplished so many things. Obviously was a champ very young, 19, 20 years old. He came into the fighting game so early. And to continue to do so at 35, 36, not much left for him to do. It was kind of sad, obviously, as a Mexican person. He's the GOAT in terms of Mexican boxers. But Crawford's really good, man. I thought that a lot of people underestimated him. I knew it was going to be a close fight. Obviously, the scorecards deemed it close. But everybody knew when that fight ended, it was Crawford. Crawford's hand was going to be raised. Other than that, man, let me know what your guys' thoughts were about the fight. If you guys did enjoy the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.